Great.
So I want to welcome everyone. You are here in this field of what I feel is already a field of love and appreciation. And I welcome you. My name is Michele Yasuda, and I'm the program director for the Big Leap Home, which are the online programs that support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And this is all part of the Foundation for Conscious Living's mission and vision. So I welcome you here in our Big Leap Bridge community, where we play with Hendricks practices in order to learn and discover together. So thanks for being willing to be here. I'm going to go ahead and hand the call over in a moment. This is an unusual call because usually I'm turning it over to the facilitator. And today we have some co-facilitators, and we have Nancy, who is a wonderful, amazing person here that has been a part of the Hendricks family for so many years and was our enrollment consultant for a very long time. And I love her dearly. And she's going to be moderating today. So, but I just wanted to let you all know that we have a platform called the Big Leap Home Network. And it's a place where we can come together and have conversations. You can learn about the upcoming events and all of that. And so I'll put an invitation in the chat for you to join us on that. So it's kind of like a Facebook group, but it's not social media. So there's no ads or anything. So, okay, well, I'm going to just hand the call over to you, Nancy, and let you begin.
Hey, there we go. All right, awesome. So a couple of thoughts that I want to share with all of you, that if you could mute yourself and then unmute yourself if there's a question that you have or a comment that you want to add in, and please use the chat if you can throughout the call. What I'm really curious to know about, and if you're willing to put it in the chat, is what is it that brings you to this call? What was it that sparked your interest about couples and about, you know, these three couples, or about the Hendricks Institute and learning about relationship as it relates to partnership? And if you are willing to share, just put something in the chat. Could just be a few things. I'd love to know a little bit more about what got you here, what brought you here. I love the person who's pointing at Eva. So it was Eva's idea, it looks like, according to the man in glasses next to you. Yeah, so what brought you here? So conscious loving after ever. Hey, Alice, good to see you. Anybody else want to share? What is it that brought you to? We've got familiar faces, and we've got some folks that I know I've not yet met. Well, feel free. Okay, great. We're always learning something. Yep. Terry, Stephen, and Bernard. In my relationship for over 20 years, it's wonderful, but further enrichment would be special. And Bernard, I think you've come in from England. You're participating from the UK, so welcome. And then Rose, I just read The Big Leap and found this one looking for more information. Oh man, Rose, there's a treasure trove for you to take a dive into. I always recommend a good book on relationship is Conscious Loving, written by Katie and Gay a while ago. But also, yeah, great. And Michele has just put in the Big Leap Home Network website with some more information. And then Annika and I are very committed to the commitments we read first in Conscious Loving, the book I just mentioned, and we're always looking to deepen that. Well, that's great. Oh, lovely. So feel free, please, throughout the call, we're going to be together for about another 55 minutes. Use the chat. And as Michele mentioned, I'm Nancy Stubbs. I was enrollment consultant for 16 and a half years. Michele is the enrollment consultant extraordinaire now. And so, yep, so she's your person if you have any questions at all about anything related to Katie's and Gay's work out in the world, their books, their trainings, specifically their trainings, their webinars, the foundation, which is the nonprofit branch of the Hendricks Institute, and the free online courses and resources that are available there, plus the actual online courses that aren't free, but are really educational and coaching certification. There's lots there. We have a couples course, so the Hendricks Institute has a couples course coming up February 18th through the 20th. And so it's really just a great opportunity for our three panel couples, if you will, to share with you things that they've learned along the way of being in partnership with one another for a very long time, each couple, and the things that have worked well for them. I've studied with Katie and Gay 20 years. Last month is when I first took a class with Katie Hendricks, and by June of the first day I knew I wanted to study with her for a very long time, and I'm a couple decades in. So I'm super happy about that. I want to introduce our three couples, and then I'm going to get into some asking them questions and having them speak. So I want to introduce you, Michele and Dean. So you've already heard Michele speak. So Michele and Dean first came to the Hendricks Institute, what I think is 2016, and have just like 2016, 2015, something like that. And are
like
incredible
6 years ago. So whatever that is, I'm not good at math.
Yeah. But, really, both of them, are parents and partnered before, and then came together in their relationship. And I know both of them dearly and deeply. And, the two of you have created an extraordinary relationship together of learning and fun and, just daily engagement. And Heath and Nicole, you've been together, I seem to remember it's like 20 some years. And you're right. And you're in business together. Heath and Nicole, if you want to weigh in. It looks like you're both thinking, how long have we been together? You're muted. Yeah. Yep. There you are.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we've been together 25 years. We were having a delivery and our dog was barking. So pardon me. But I hope I answered that one. Sorry if I missed your other question.
Yeah, no. And Heath and Nicole, everyone, are in business together, and they travel around the United States, and I believe even around the world, teaching classes around massage and different elements of self-care, body care, all the way from, I think, the esoteric to the very, very physical. So it's just beautiful what you're doing. And then Bob and Marlene, we met for the first time in October of 2002 when Katie and Gay were facilitating a couples course in New York City. And I remember you pulled me aside and said, hey, and I wasn't even an enrollment consultant, but you said, hey, can you tell us more about this organization? And we did, and have been friends now for, nearly 20 years. But Bob and Marlene have created a life together of 40 plus years, I believe. And, kids and 50 years? 51 years. Yes. And
55.
Wow. Been together 55, and extraordinary teachers and leaders in how to stay connected and sexy and amazing in all the years of one's life. So those are our three panel couples. And again, I'll take a look at the chat here in a moment. But what I want to invite the three panel couples to share, and please just unmute yourself and share as you feel inspired, is what commitments and agreements have you created in your relationships that support joy and connection between you, and that keep your relationship, fresh and connected? I'm going to mute myself and invite, Michele and Dean, if you would go first, and then Marlene and Bob and Heath and Nicole.
All right, happy to.
Yeah.
So, do you want to speak first?
Yeah, I mean, one of our commitments we made together was, as long as we're having fun and we're happy, that's our commitment, and one of the commitments anyway. And if that's not happening, okay, what do we need to do to create that? And so, that's been a very strong commitment for us. And then, 100% honesty was another big one for us. And
I think that that's the one that I was thinking about, and how the two of those go together, where if something's going on where we're not experiencing joy, that we have this commitment to unedited speaking. So that's the other one, is really unedited expression with each other, so that we could be real. And then because we're being real, there's okay. And now what do we want? What do we want to create? So so I think that's us.
And was that something that you learned by studying with Katie and Gay, coming to their workshops or reading their books, or was that something that the two of you came into your relationship with?
Well, this is the fun part, is actually, it was because of others who had read the Hendricks work and had experienced the Hendricks work, who put it was like a little whisper in my ear about the 100% honesty. That's one of them. And so I like to say that the Hendricks were in our relationship before I even met them, before I read a book. But we both did have conscious loving. We had that book when we were with other partners. And funny enough, never finished it, read a few chapters, and then it's like, okay, that's not happening right now, I guess. And so I would say the Hendricks were woven into our relationship right from the start. And
because when we started, it was basically, when we both met, it was loving life and loving ourselves. That was like our thing when we got together. Like, okay, do we love ourselves? Do we love loving life? Yeah, okay, let's see what we can emerge from this. And as we started working together and found out about Katie and Gay and all the tools they use, especially they're talking about the fast track, and we're like, let's do that, unediting feedback, and anytime, any place, and anyhow. And it's like, whoa, what am I getting into here?
So we don't recommend that to everybody. We don't recommend that, but it's true that Katie taught us that if you really want to fast track getting real with each other, take off any of the like, well, you didn't say that nicely, or that was one of my famous ones, or, oh, this wasn't the right time to hear that. And it's true that for us, it really got us real like that. So, yep.
Yeah, thanks for adding that. One of the things too that I'm hearing, well, I'm making up a story as I listen to you, is that you both got to a point individually where you were in your wholeness, and you came to this relationship with each other from wholeness, and then from also wanting to be authentic. And in the conscious loving, in that book, Katie and Gay really speak to the microscopic truth. They talk about what is the microscopic truth, which is in a part, that's what you're talking about. So, first coming into this relationship from a place of learning and openness and wholeness, and then adding that in. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Super juicy. All right, Bob and Marlene, how about for the two of you, 50 plus years together and playing still to this day?
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about 100% responsibility and how it shows up in agreements. Because for me, the 100% responsibility, it's very easy for me to go over there rather than over here. And so for me, that was rather important. And the whole thing about, am I going to do what I say I'm going to do? I mean, pretty practical, but you know something? It is pretty common. It is, people really fall down on this. Did I agree to that? I didn't agree to that. No, we really talk about and look at agreements, and we follow up on it. Do we still want to keep this agreement? What do we want to do? This has a lot of positive things between us because we're able to do that in our relationship on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, we read Conscious Loving in the early 90s. We were part of a book study group. And so for our 25th wedding anniversary, which was in 1995, actually in 1994, we rewrote our vows based on the 7 soul commitments, which I think were in that
so long ago
book. And so for me, the biggest commitment has been to see everything as an opportunity for learning, which I think is sort of what they used to call the master commitment. And that I keep coming back to that. If I'm willing to see everything as an opportunity for learning, then we can keep going.
Thank you. I make up the story that, possibly for the first 25 years or so of your relationship, that you probably use the tools that you saw around you growing up and as young adults. And yet still they got you to 25 years, the two of you, maybe what you learned didn't get you there, but the two of you and your commitment got you to 25 years. And then I'm making up the story that the last 25 years has been that what you're talking about, Bob, about 100% responsibility, and, and Marlene, that really just, continuing to turn towards one another and being open to learning. And what can we learn here? What's possible here, rather than letting it devolve into finger pointing. And, again, the relationship resources that for a lot of us, most of us, I'll say, based on my experience, were modeled for us that weren't so healthy. So
definitely reading Conscious Loving, and reading a few other books, meeting Gay and Katie in 2002 changed my life.
Mhm.
It just transformed me personally and transformed our relationship. We know other people that have been together 51 years, but I don't think we know very many that have been together 51 years and are still having fun and are still having sex and are still playing and are still just, alive. So yeah, it's thanks to Gay and Katie for that.
I remember the first training in which Katie said, would you be open to having more fun together? And it was like, what? And here we are, having a lot more fun together.
Mhm.
The second 25 years and more have been incredibly rich.
Mhm. And I'm so grateful that I've gotten to bear witness to about 19 of those years and to see that. And I wanted, before I come to you, Heath and Nicole, I just want to touch back into the chat, and that several of you also shared some of the reasons what brought you to this call today. And we've got several individuals who work with couples, who have also studied with Katie and Gay, who've done other work as well, study with other individuals, and that you're still interested in weaving into your client work and into your own life positive conscious relationship tools. And there's also, I saw a comment of someone who's really interested in, generating and creating a relationship. And so, this is it's kind of like this sweet, like umami richness that's coming through from Dean and Michele and Bob and Marlene, and now Heath and Nicole. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. So how about for you?
Let's bring some umami to this.
Mm.
A little savory. And I like our first ever commitment was we stay together as long as we change together, and we kind of lean on that really hard. And it has been my favorite part of agreements and commitments is that they're ever evolving, that they're continuing to grow with us. And as we grow older and as our responsibilities change with one another, our agreements also change and evolve. And I think one of the hardest, most challenging agreement that we have since evolved into and made is creating a blame-free relationship.
This is what I would call an aspirational agreement. So one thing I realize is that just because we make the agreement doesn't mean that we should shame ourselves if we're not getting it 100% perfect right away or after several iterations or years.
Years.
And I remember when I don't know if it was Gay or Katie who posed the question, can you imagine yourself in a blame-free relationship?
And we both walked out of that class. We're like, what are they talking about?
Foo-foo, that is airy-fairy,
You think that's real?
new age. No, humans
Is
can't
that possible?
And then we began to actually experiment, what Gay and Katie call be a living laboratory, and take some of these ideas and concepts and practice them at home and at work and individually in our own personal growth and development. And that I do love that you brought that up. It's one of my favorite agreements with you, and it's probably
the most challenging.
One of the ones that I need to be reminded, or I remind myself, oh, there's more to learn about.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
There is, and we mentioned something, what I'm hearing is that this is really very much an alive agreement, and that you recommit to it over and over and over and over again, which is one of the core tenets of any kind of a conscious relationship, is that we can make a commitment to be blame-free. And I don't know about y'all, but I know within minutes, that agreement is being challenged for me, where I get to recommit to that again, because of the kind of the ruts in my mind that in my practice as a 50-something-year-old human being in relationship with lots of different people, is that I can go straight into blame and criticism like really fast. And so it's the recommitment piece that is so strong and so important to just keep coming back to that. One other thing that in your sharing, Heath and Nicole, that I want to mention is that committing to conscious relationship isn't just like a one-time thing. So I've already talked about the recommitment piece, but it's also about giving yourself plenty of space and time to become masterful. Over the years that I've studied with Katie, very directly, I've had many year-long assignments from her. Many, where she has said, okay, if you're willing to do an experiment with XYZ, do this for the next year. and me being the overachiever that I've been most of my life, it's like, no, I just want to I want to get it today. I want to master it today. And what I'm appreciating about all three of you and several of the other couples on this call is that, and especially those that I know, is that you're here because you've recommitted. You're here because you've committed to that year-long lesson, or that 25-year-long lesson, or that 50-year-long practice of doing something, and mastering it, and at least attempting to master it. So yeah. Anything else, Heath and Nicole, that you want to share, or Bob and Marlene, or Michele and Dean, that you want to piggyback off of one another? All right, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. So before we go on to our next topic, anybody have thoughts or questions that, as you've listened to these 6 beautiful individuals, anything that you want to ask one of them, or both of them, or all of them? Unmute yourself and just speak into the room. Would love to hear your voice if you've got a thought or a question, or you've got, oh yeah, we've been there. Yes, Jack and Surya.
So this was something that I so appreciate hearing from everyone, first of all, because hearing the language is always enriching. We're so connected to those concepts, but living them is what it's all about. And there's an exercise I thought maybe one of you could talk to, where you become like chicken wire to allow the energy to move through you. And I know that Marlene and Bob introduced that to us, as maybe they could respond to that, to just describe it again.
Is that, we'll try and do it very briefly.
Yes.
This was actually introduced way back in 2002 when we were at our first training. And at that point, it was called the constellation game. And the idea is that whatever's coming towards you is a thought and a puff of air and energy. And what makes it real is you react.
Or it sticks to you.
So practicing, and so this is sort of like the opposite of the blame-free relationship. This is about when somebody falls into blame, you don't let it stick. You open up to having it move through, move past, catch it, throw it back,
Play around with it.
do something, change it. You do something fun with it, and it loses its punch. I can go on, I could spend a whole hour on this, but I think that's enough for now. Just that's the basic idea, that this thought, this energy, this puff of air is coming at you, and it feels like, I remember back in 2002, we said the worst thing that anybody's ever said or done or thought, or that you thought they thought. But that they actually are probably doing it because they care, they want to connect. And so when you can let the negative,
Yeah. And the idea of chicken wire is there's lots of space. So the space, I have lots of space in me. I have lots of space to allow things to be there without taking it all on right away. It's just passing through me, around me, and I can simply then look at it for what it is rather than my worst fear.
Great, thank you. Thanks
Yes,
for
thank
asking
you.
that question, Surya and Bob and Marlene,
vivid.
for answering that. Yeah, chicken wire, I like to imagine being in the current, like in a sea kelp forest where the current is coming by me, and I'm just undulating and letting it pass. Yeah. And so being very porous. Yes. So Michele and Dean, you had something to add?
Yeah, and I'm so appreciating that, because I've used the chain link fence, and I'm Sawyer, thank you so much for that. Was such a rich share there, and I'm so appreciating it. And I've brought that up a lot, and it's a reminder of how important that is in couples. So I'm really excited that you brought that up. And what it made me think of is the concept of taking things personally and making it about ourselves. So it was just, I just wanted to underline that if we're taking that puff of air and having it stick, we're taking something personally, making it about ourselves. And I loved, Marlene, what you just said, when it might look like it's something really negative and bad coming towards us, but really it's some attempt at connection, even though it's not such a great attempt, right? It's like me trying to talk right now, and actually, can I see through that? Can I see through to there's something else going on here? So really appreciate this being brought up. So thank you.
Yeah, great. So we've got two questions that I want to ask the couples, but one is specifically directed to you, Michele and Dean. So if you could concisely, briefly share, the question is, could you speak more to the move you made about being honest with each other anytime and anywhere? What did that shift look like, and how did that work?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So the shift was, okay, we're taking off the table, me being able to say, hey, that wasn't really good timing for you to tell me that. I would have appreciated if you waited to say that to me. And so deflecting what was being shared, right, and making it about that it was the timing. So we took that off the table, and I think that was the one for me. That made, because that was my go-to, was the timing wasn't good, or I wasn't ready for that. And so for me, it helped me as a person develop the skill to take a toss in the moment. So here it is. It's the unexpected. And can I take that toss as in improv as a yes and instead of a no? So am I willing to take that toss from my partner and be able to work with it? And so for me, that was the benefit of that move. And really the practicality of it was for us to say, all right, we're trying this out. This is what we're going to do. And if you want to just share.
Yeah, I know. For me, I kind of didn't know what it really was getting into, because Michelle's much more of an expresser than I am. So when we agreed to that, it was like, okay, how can I make sure I'm present, because it's gonna come. It's like at any time, anything is like, whoa, and I'm like, okay, do I want to fight back? Yes. And yet, okay, how can I present myself? How can I keep myself from reacting, rather than just taking a pause and going, oh, okay, she's expressing. It's nothing to do with me. She's just expressing. And how can I let that land and take what I want, and then the rest just kind of all the rest can go away. And it was a huge shift. It was a huge shift for us, I think.
Yeah. So I hope that answered the question.
I think it did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, great. Thank you. And Devin, please feel free to add more in the chat if you want to, because you had asked that question. But I really appreciate Dean and Michele for how you piggybacked on to what Bob and Marlene were talking about. And I really also want to, share that what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and making up the story about is that you had, at the deeper level, a commitment to being with one another, to seeing each other, and to being available for feedback no matter how it comes.
Yes.
So the disarming yourself, right? So becoming disarmed in relationship around the filters that you require for what the feedback looks like, the timing, the perfect timing, all that. So, I'll add in here that I have a mantra that I've been using for about 7 years regularly, which is, I'm always in the right time for the right reason. And so right place, right time, right reason. Actually, that's the orders. I'm always in the right place. I'm always there at the right time, and I'm always there for the right reason. And that includes when somebody gives me feedback. So if, you know, there's in partnership, you know, you're there for the relationship, you're there for one another. So what I hear is that you're cultivating the practice of being available.
Yes. And I just realized that this really 100% responsibility, and thank you, Bob, for bringing that up. That has to be woven into that commitment, in my opinion. So it's yes. So yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up from Marlene. So without 100% responsibility, now we're in trouble, right? So we're committed to a loving relationship, to being for each other and not against, right? So weave in all that, the no blame, no criticism, all of that must be agreed to in order for the anytime, anywhere, any place, for that unedited feedback to work. So thank you for what you said, Nancy, that reminded me of that.
And then really the other agreement that was huge too was that we stay in the game. There's no like, I'm out of here, I'm going, I got to go to another room. It was like, we stay and we go through it.
Yeah.
And see
We're
how
willing
we can be
to
allies.
ride it through.
See if we can see each other as allies and like, okay, you're for me, I'm for you. Can we support each other through this, whatever we're going through? So that was a big, another big agreement.
Great. And that's piggybacking onto, or really leading into, another question that has been asked, which is how do couples operationalize the process of declaring commitments and managing to their commitments? So you've just talked about the managing piece of the commitments in a way. And I'm curious to know, and Heath and Nicole, I'm really drawn to calling on you for this one. I want to just toss this out. I don't know if you're interested and available, but how have you declared commitments with one another in your relationship?
Yeah, well, we have two versions.
Out loud.
Out loud is very important. So previously to our experience with Hendricks, a lot of our agreements were assumed, or they were in our mind and they weren't actually communicated outside of ourselves. So I like that you say out loud. You know, one of the pillars of integrity the Hendricks talk about is speaking from discovery, but we also notice it works in reverse. Discovering while speaking. Sometimes we don't even know what we feel or what we want until we start blurting and letting the words kind of fall out and seeing where they land. So a lot of communication, a lot of blurting, what I like to say, like outing myself. I used to be, and I'm still unwinding the appropriate time and place to communicate my feelings. And well, I feel scared or I feel angry and I don't want to upset the peace or harmony. So let me find it. So for me, going back to, okay, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to recommit to being present for myself, for what I'm feeling, but also for sharing that with Nicole. So doing it out loud. And the operational thing, I think, in part, is we have two versions of agreements. We have relationship agreements, things that we agree to in our relationship, how we're going to show up. And a lot of those were based in things we've read in the Hendricks work. Also, other Hendricks practitioners, we've seen their relationship agreements, kind of like when Harry met Sally. Ooh, I'll have what she's having, a little of this, a little of that. And then we have another set of agreements, and actually we made them, we edited them. I remember we took several weeks when we had vows, we had wedding vows, but I don't know what those are.
26 years old.
Yeah,
I don't know what I said.
We
I love you forever, hon.
Yeah. And a lot of them weren't actually attainable. And so when we got into Hendricks, we got real clear. We wrote them out. We edited them. We printed them out. We have them in a frame on our vanity mirror where we brush our teeth and, you know, when we get ready or finish up for the day. And we have another set of agreements that we make with each other in relationship to the universe, our co-commitments on how we want to experience the world, how we collectively commit to organizing ourselves in relationship with the universe. And so one of those co-commitments is committing to seeing the universe as a friendly ally, as a playful source of support. And so both having the relationships practically of how we're going to massage our relationship and nourish that, but also on an aspirational level and in the context of how we relate to the rest of life and the world, we also get real clear about that. And so both our relationship agreements and our universe, our co-commitments we have with life itself, we have them. We edited for many weeks, printed, have them, and we look at them and we've reviewed them, and we notice when ourselves or the others isn't necessarily in alignment with those commitments, and we also change them. If there's a certain word or a certain commitment we'd like to add or we'd like to edit, they are living documents. But it was also important for us to write them down, to see them, to read them, to review them, because I think all these ideas, we teach a lot of yoga therapy and medical qigong, and in embodiment practices, it's a common expression, and I include Hendricks conscious communication as an embodiment practice. Only 1% is theory, the other 99% is practice. And so the recommitting to practicing, recommitting to showing up. And for me personally, I think being able to have either a significant other or just someone that you trust and love and reciprocates that with you, to be able to practice these things before you take some of these big ideas and these kind of radical notions and behaviors out into the quote unquote real world. I find it's so delicious and safe to practice with someone where there's some trust established. And for me, it's the practice is what makes it operational. Until you take the step into action, it's just a thought form. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Very generous, expansive, amazing response. I appreciate you for sharing that. And the next step, I think, in our call today is to dive a little bit more deeply into how you've each operationalized one tool for staying connected, and for, in some ways it could be around commitment. It can also be around appreciation, and it can be around communication. And so I want to thank you all for talking about how you operationalize that, because that's a whole course just by itself on, getting committed, establishing commitments, establishing agreements. What's the difference between them? How do you then interact with them? How do you recommit over and over and over again? And, at some point you might go, yeah, I'm not committed to that anymore, and now we need to change it. So thank you for the examples. The next question that I have for the three of you that I want to invite you to actually demonstrate for everybody on the call, is a favorite tool that you use for staying connected, for your conscious, loving relationship, if you will, and you're specifically around communication. So communication is such an important tool, to Heath and Nicole's part, our comments, and also to Michele and Dean's. And so just for everybody on the call, pretty much this whole call is unscripted. I don't know what everybody's going to be sharing when I ask them a question, or when I, ask them your questions. But I will say this next piece, we have talked prior to getting on, like we want to show you, and the couples decided this, want to show you a particular tool that everybody's, myself included, we've all learned from Katie and Gay, called tossing. And it's, for some of you that, it's not the slang version of tossing. It's an actual way of communicating with one another. And so Michele and Dean are going to show you how they use it with appreciation. Bob and Marlene are going to show you how they use it. And then we're going to toss to Heath and Nicole, and they're going to show you how they use it, because they're in business. Well, all three of these couples are in business together, but Heath and Nicole are going to specifically show you how they use it with their business. So we're going to start with Michele and Dean, and they're going to toss it then to Bob and Marlene, and they're going to toss it to Heath and Nicole. All right. And give some really basic context of what is it you're going to be talking about and tossing about?
Yeah, well, one of our favorite tools to play with is appreciation. So we're combining two tools. So one, the basic toss, and the other is leading with appreciation. So am I?
You're gonna, yeah.
All right, here we go.
Well, it's nice to get a nice little toy or sock or something soft and friendly. So it's a friendly toss. It's not, here you go. All right. So, appreciation. So lead me to an appreciation.
Oh, so something I've been appreciating about you lately is how you've been cooking amazing food for us.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, I just appreciate that I might have a really full day and I'm doing so many things. And then suddenly there's this amazing meal, sometimes being placed in front of me when you know that I've had an extra full schedule, and you come in and deliver food to me. And I just feel your love in that.
And then what happens?
Then it inspires me to appreciate you and to really see all that you do to keep my life moving along, and to really show up in the way that we've chosen to show up in the world.
And what interests you most about that?
Co-creating joy and fun and love together. Ta-da!
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Go ahead and toss that over to Bob and Marlene.
So yeah, tossing. We use tossing in so many different ways. We'll throw an object just because we're talking, and that's more like a talking stick. But my favorite thing, my favorite thing to teach, which is probably an advanced move, is to drop the words and toss facial expressions, gestures, maybe sounds. So let's say I'm thinking about something and I'm sort of feeling a little stuck. And so I'll take the feeling I've got in my body and I'll just make it a little bit bigger. And then I'll toss it to Bob. And when he gets it, he's going to try on my stuckness. So then he's got my stuckness that he's trying on, and he's going to change it somehow. And he tosses it to me, and I take on his version, which feels so different from my version. And I might want to come back to because I'm not quite ready to shift yet. So I might want to come back to mine. And it's really hard for me to hold on to my stuckness when I'm playing with.
Well, now it's sort of a little bit more like just playing, eh? And then
I sort of forgot what I was upset about. So.
And in practice, it probably takes a little bit longer, but dropping the words is a big deal for all of us. And doing something that's really in our bodies is a great shift move.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I put in go ahead, Marlene. Yeah. So I put it in the comments that play is such a key part. So Heath and Nicole, how do you use tossing, the tool of tossing, for staying really connected and enlivened in your business?
Yeah, we use it a number of ways. And the three questions really that we have in the chat room are what helps keep it alive. And as you mentioned, Nancy, I appreciate you clarifying, free of judgment, in the zone of curiosity. I've heard it Katie say that the antidote to criticism is curiosity. So when we're noticing a lot of criticism, so we run our business together, we live together, we do a lot of stuff together, we create a lot, and it's just natural to, when we meet up with impasses, to kind of
We get stuck
have that
sometimes.
energy
Yeah.
happen together, colliding. So we like to use tossing around challenges. So like if we're trying to create something new, or there's a challenge we're trying to face. So why don't you toss to me? I'll come up with something to
Okay.
toss about around the business world. And this is something that we're actually doing. I've got an idea.
Oh, excellent.
So
So
toss that. So I've been feeling stressed about this new contract.
ooh, yeah. Tell me more.
I notice I've been anxious and revved up with adrenaline, and I think it's impacting my sleep.
Ooh. And then what happens?
Well, I notice I start getting hard on myself, and my sleep's not good, and it's going to interfere with my health, and oh my gosh, all this other stuff.
And what interests you most about that?
Well, I'm really interested on how I can transform this stress and anxiety into like some creativity, into excitement and energy.
Oh, tell me more.
So I feel like my anxiety is a lot like my woo, 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 excitement. So I'm really wondering how I can feel into this new contract with more excitement.
Ooh, yeah. I want to know more. And it could go on and on and on, back and forth. But I think one of my favorite parts of that is usually that we turn towards each other, and we're really taking in each other and giving each other our attention in a totally different way than we probably were before, trying to figure things out with our brains and our heads and our thinking bodies.
Yeah, I really appreciate, Nicole, that you just kept asking those 3 questions, and that Heath, you got to take a deeper dive, like kind of spiraling further down into, well, what is this really about? You know, what really, and what are the possibilities? And so then maybe even spiraling back up, right? You know, so getting in underneath it and then coming up with solutions. And what, I know for me, I was married many years ago, and my marriage was in large part about problem solving for one another. Like, oh, that's going on for you. Oh, well, how about this? How about this? And trying on different solutions, and the person, like just deflecting, me being the one, or my former, husband being the one, of just like deflecting things off. Instead, what you just demonstrated, all 3 of you just demonstrated, was the deepening the conversation and letting the person who's exploring just come, like kind of settled back into, well, here's my experience, and being with. So yeah. And yeah, Dean, I see your hand. Great.
Yeah, I want to highlight what you said there at the end, appreciating that the whole body listening, like that's really important just in any communication, is to fully turn towards the person with your body posture open, breathing, and just taking a pause and connecting with them before you speak. Because often we can be like, hey, honey, I'm going to do it. And you're like, yeah, okay. You're walking past, or we're talking to each other, or we're doing something and someone's talking and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I got that. Oh, yeah. And it just, it all misses you don't connect. So for me, being fully open towards my partner, and not not like this, open my posture, breathe, take a pause, and then I know she's there, she knows I'm here, and we can connect in a beautiful way. Yeah, so thank you, Nicole, for reminding us of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're laughing at Heath, who's demonstrating.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's holding his phone, and yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, we did a video years ago about that. Actually, that's really funny. You reminded me.
Oh yeah, good day, honey. Oh yeah, very interesting. Sports. Ooh.
We often start the more difficult conversations with the getting really present, looking into each other's eyes,
breathing.
and Katie described that as the way to start what they call their 10-minute stuff talk, as well as their 10-minute heart talk. And we've been using that for years. Just that jumping right into a difficult conversation is often not productive, but getting that sense of, we're here together.
We're here for each other, as Dean mentioned earlier.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, really wonderful. And I believe that turning towards one another comes out of the Gottman Institute's work on research with couples. So another great resource that Katie will often refer to in her couples course and in other courses is she'll refer back to some of that work, the research that the Gottman Institute has brought forth in the world. It's so powerful around couples, and turning towards one another in partnership is really important. For those of you who perhaps aren't in a partnership at this point, or in a relationship, like in this way, a coupled relationship, I invite you to even experiment with your closest friends. I experiment with strangers, and I experiment with my close friends. And I find that sometimes coming up to somebody that I don't know, like coming up to their side is more appropriate. And then eventually turning towards them when I really want to hear them and dive deeply into it. But it's really, I've seen it over and over and over in intimate partnerships, that the side by side or the half turn away, kind of like what Heath was demonstrating, isn't as impactful as the being right there, and to Bob and Marlene's point, looking each other in the eye and being available for play. So we're coming towards, the last like 5 to 7 minutes here of our time together. And I want to mention one thing, and then I want to ask one last question of our panel of couples. And I want to just mention that, again, I touched on it at the beginning of the call. We've got a couples course coming up, or Katie Hendricks is going to be teaching. Even though I'm not an enrollment consultant, y'all, I mean, I spent 16 and a half years saying we. I'm going to still keep using we. But the Hendricks Institute has a couples course coming up February 18th through the 20th. It's a Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Michele of our couples panel is the enrollment consultant. I want you to wave. Yep, great. So Michele is who you can learn more from that. Want to make sure that you do know this is the first in-person course that Katie will be teaching in over 2 years. And it's really important for you to know that proof of vaccination will be required if you want to show up for that. It'll be in Ojai, California. And also, so you have to provide proof of vaccination at the door, and masks will be required while in the physical training space. Participation is going to be limited a bit. We don't have the final number on that, but it is going to allow for more safe engagement together, given COVID restrictions and concerns. COVID spread, the desire to not be part of the problem, but to really, be there safely and be together. So that's all happening in mid-February. Reach out to Michele if you've got more questions about that, and especially about any of the other courses. But one of the cornerstones of Katie's and Gay's work is this concept of being present, getting connected through presence, and then being available for play with one another. And it's so important in our relationships. And so what I'm curious to know about from the 3 couples on our panel is can you give an example around, can you think of a time in the last couple of days that you've really created that presence, connect, play continuum, like reliably, like that step-by-step process? Can you give it a quick example of something that, really stands out for you? How did you presence and connect and play with one another? So I'm going to go Bob and Marlene first, and then we'll go Heath and Nicole, and we're going to end on Michele and Dean.
I think we're doing it all the time. And probably our favorite example is how we do it during sexual play. We've actually created a course called Deeply Connected about that. But the whole idea of, and it doesn't matter where we start, whether we start with the connection, or we start with presencing ourselves, presencing you, bringing play in. Like it feels to me like it's a all woven together concept. And when I think now pretty consistently, we're doing that when we're giving and receiving physical pleasure. It's magic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 50 some years of still being connected to one another in an intimate sexual relationship is impressive. And yeah, Presence Connect Play is a big piece of it. And yeah, you're both so playful. So thank you. Thanks, Heath and Nicole.
Did you want to take this?
Let's think. I'm trying to, well, most recently, Heath talked about a new contract that's coming up for us, and both of us kind of getting worked up in our own individual ways about it. And having our heart talks has been a really great way for us to presence and connect. And then there's usually a little element of play where one of us will sometimes do each other's voice.
Exaggeration is our favorite. So we're really attuned to when the other goes into like a little different octave. It might sound a little whiny or
why do I have to do it all by myself? I don't understand. I always have to do it all on my own.
So and we have this agreement to play with each other's voices. I don't recommend you start making fun of people's voices, but we'll either exaggerate the other person or just if we're having a rare moment of lucidity, we'll exaggerate our own feeling.
Voice, yes.
Oh my God, I feel so exhausted with this computer screen. It's usually bemoaning too much screen time. But we really like exaggerating either ourselves or the other person. And that's a reminder like, okay, I don't need to be rigid. I don't need to figure this out with my serious mind.
It took some time to get there without
what are you making fun of me?
I don't do that.
That's not what I sound. This is not the time to make fun of me. And so we actually will say that kind of stuff. And it's when you do it enough, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It unhooks me from my seriousness, and defensiveness, I think, has been a theme for us that we've been talking about throughout this call. How do you get from defensiveness to this defenselessness where you can receive and trust?
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Michele and Dean, bring us home.
I just want to say, I'm taking that toss from you. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
I'm osmosing so much of like, we're going to do that, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. And wow, I'm so inspired. So yeah, I think my favorite way that we've been connecting lately is through appreciation. So, and I feel like it's funny because I was like, how do we play? It's all we do is play. And I don't mean we don't play in our personas too. We play out a lot of the defensive behavior and things like that. But I feel like that's the levity has been at the core of our relationship. So it's hard for me to like pick something, but I think the fact that Dean has been, I know something that you've been doing. He's been buying flowers, and we've been playing about the flowers actually. And because he likes to take the flowers and they're arranged already and he plops them in the thing. And so I'm looking at the flowers going, well, they're so full in there and they're so beautiful after I say thank you and everything. And and so I want to take out, and I'm like, well, so we'll play with things like that, where it's like, he's not taking it personally, that he's getting me a gift and him a gift. It's really for both of us. And then I'm having this idea about it, like, well, it's supposed to have more air in it, or it's supposed to whatever. So I think that part for me is something that I've been appreciating, that you don't take personally, that I can be like, I love this. And
yeah, and I think also the 20-second hug's been fun. That's really a great tool. When I see Michele or she's in here working and something's happening, I just be like,
and I'm like,
and she's like, okay,
all right.
and then you just about right around the 10-second mark, it really starts sinking in. That's when you like both the connection, this love hormones are coming out, and it just brings such a nice peaceful energy for 20 seconds. And then we go on and do our thing.
And then I can get back to this.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't take much time out of your day, but the payoff on your internal chemical levels, those internalized chemicals that, the body chemistry really is a great payoff. I just posted in the chat and I'll comment on it. I don't have the link to hand, but if you go to YouTube, you can probably just plug in 20-second hug, Gay and Kathleen Hendricks, and you'll find them demonstrating that. So we're at the end of our call, and I want to thank everyone for being on the call, for staying the entire hour. I want to thank Michele and Dean, Bob and Marlene, and Heath and Nicole for your wisdom, your experience. And I mean, seriously, collectively, we're looking at 25, like 70 some odd years of relationship between Bob and Marlene, Heath and Nicole. And we add in what, 8, I think, Michele and Dean. So, you know, we got 80 some odd years, almost 90 years of relationship experience just in these 3. We add in Terry and Stephen and Jack and Surya and Marlene or Darlene and her husband and more. We've got a lot of collective experience in relationship here. So thank you all so much. And thanks for your comments. Really appreciate that this landed for you, that you're inspired by it. We've shared some practices. Yeah. And thanks for being here. So if there's any last things, questions or anything, put them in the chat. We'll, I know I plan on staying on for another couple of minutes after we sign off officially with the recording. And yeah, just I'll, you know, say hi, answer questions if you want to stay on for a few more minutes. But
well, I want to jump in and thank you, Nancy. I'm going to interrupt you to appreciate you and your magnificent moderating and your presence. I so appreciate you. I so love you and thank you for helping bring this all together. And I did put the hug video is actually on the foundation site. So I put that, lots of resources I threw in there. And I wanted to say, I just want to end with that we can bring that hug to ourselves as well. And I think I don't need to wait for Dean to walk in the office for me to actually pause and be with myself. I said I don't have to, I want to. So I just wanted to just share that because I had that thought and yeah, so I just want to end with a little bit of a self-appreciation, self-love, and mwah, thank you everyone for being with us, and we'll see you next time in the community. Appreciating everyone.
All right. One quick question, Michele, will there be a recording available of this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, there will. Very shortly, it will go up on the site. So
okay.
The Hendricks YouTube, if you look up Hendricks Institute, there are lots and lots of really wonderful Bigly Bridge classes that we've had before, Marlene and Bob videos, and Heath and Nicole. There's some with Dean and I, and our whole community, and lots of wonderful facilitation. So yeah, so look at Hendricks Institute and you'll find the playlist for Bigly Bridge, lots of calls there. And that's where this one will land.
All right, everyone.
So thanks, everyone. Feel free to unmute and
yeah, say goodbye to the voice in the room. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Great.